Dawn. The sun rises and brings with it life-giving light, an endless source of energy, and the promise of a new day. In the more underdeveloped, isolated areas of the world, it is estimated that 3/4 of the people live without power. Even in the United States, about 10% have no reliable source of energy, no clean source of power. Power to enrich their lives, power to change their lives. For centuries, people have looked to the bright warmth of the sun and wondered how its promise of a new day could help them. But now the sun has provided the answer to some of its secrets and begun to give us more of its power. Some of the most wild and beautiful areas of the world are found on the 26,000 square miles of Navajo lands in northern Arizona.
We've wanted it a long time. We're off the road, away from the power line, and we don't have the money to be connected to the line. It costs too much. We just can't afford it.
Being isolated and without power means no running water, no inside bathrooms, no refrigerators, no lighting, and no communications. Things that many of us have taken so much for granted that we do not know what it is to live without them. Since no electricity is available for pumping, water has to be hauled in and stored in large tanks. For people whose livelihood depends mainly on farming, this is an extreme hardship. All water for kitchen use and bathing stands stagnant in outside tanks until used, a potential health hazard. Livestock and crops are limited by the water supply. In the hot season, thousands of gallons must be transported from distant wells. The costs in manpower and gasoline alone are staggering. Having no refrigerators is at the very least an inconvenience, but also has other more serious consequences. Besides costing money in terms of food spoilage, it can be a health threat for both people and livestock. Many medications and livestock vaccines must be kept refrigerated, or they will quickly go bad, and the money spent to purchase them will be lost.
The medicines I received are useless if I have to keep them on the shelf. I have been told to keep them stored in a cool place, but I have no place cool enough to keep them. We also received vaccines for our sheep during the summer, and we try to keep them cool, but can't find any place where they will keep.
Since light from kerosene lamps is comparatively dim, eye strain can result from trying to read or study by it for prolonged periods.
The kerosene fumes irritate my eyes, have a very strong odor, and give me headaches. They hurt my throat and make me cough. It's not like kerosene used to be in the old days. I think what they use now is artificial.
There is also the rising cost of kerosene to consider and its storage. The storage and use of kerosene, gas, and oil have been linked with many unintentional fires. Since there's often not enough water to put them out, fires are very dangerous to the Navajo people. Not having an adequate source of light affects Navajo artists in another way. Since weaving and other crafts account for much of their income, being able to work for longer periods of time helps them make more money.
I can weave until midnight at my home where I have photovoltaic solar energy. Here I don't want to run up the electric bill, so I usually weave until 10 o'clock.
The need for electricity to run citizen band radios or other means of communication is crucial. Many older people living alone have no way to contact their friends or neighbors in case of emergency. Car batteries can run some types of appliances for short periods of time, but must then be recharged. In the recent past, large areas of the Navajo Nation were cut off from the outside world by bad weather. Many Navajo families had no way to call for assistance. Because the Navajo tribe's main goal is to improve the standard of living throughout the Navajo Nation, it has begun to seek a way to bring an uncomplicated, clean, dependable source of power to its people. The tribe's Division of Chapter Development has funded a practical study to determine the best way to supply power without the need for complicated technology and maintenance or costly and potentially dangerous fuels. To find the best solution to its problem, the Division of Chapter Development turned to its age-old friend, the sun, and the solar photovoltaic system. The photovoltaic system converts sunlight directly to electrical power. It is silent, has no moving parts, requires very little maintenance, doesn't pollute the environment, and costs nothing to run. Since complicated support technology is not necessary, it is the ideal power source for isolated areas where getting parts and trained technicians is very difficult, if not impossible. There are other advantages as well. Flexibility is one of them. If initially only a few lights or a television or radio will be run, then only a small system is needed. Later on, if more power is needed to run more equipment or pump water, the system can be easily enlarged. As the sources of energy become less available and much more expensive, power from the sun will become increasingly important, not only in rural areas, but in our cities as well. The system is basically a battery charger. When the sun is shining, even on overcast or rainy days, the discs in the solar panel convert the amount of sunlight striking them directly into electrical energy and send that energy through the charge controller to be stored in a large capacity 12-volt battery. When the battery is fully charged, the charge controller turns off the charging circuit. When a TV, lights, or other equipment are on, they are run by energy from the battery regulated by the charge controller. The battery's storage capacity is enough to supply energy for 5 to 10 days of normal operation. Each component of the system is simple and dependable. It took space-age technology and the sun's power to bring us this simplicity. And the system is safe. There is no electric shock potential, no fumes or vapors, and no hot surfaces or burners. To date, over 200 of these systems have been installed on Navajo land. Several people who have a system were asked how they felt about it.
Some of my children stay at the school during the week, and when they come home on weekends, they bring homework to do. My other children who stay home with me spend their time drawing and say that the lights are much brighter.
That's the reason why I think that this will save us a lot of expense money, and what we could use a lot to get some kind of things that we like to have, like food, or get more food for my children. So I think it is very best to have this solar electrical system.
People with no photovoltaic system or electricity were asked if they felt that such a system might be of value to them.
It's good the way some people have it. I really want one. I wish I could have one put up on my house. I could have a floodlight installed outside so it wouldn't be dark. If I had a solar energy lighting system, I could use it to work, such as spinning wool, weaving, and sewing. That's what I think, so I really like it. The people I know like their solar energy lighting systems. I come here often, and these people have solar. I usually watch TV, and the lighting seems much brighter. I really would like to have a solar energy lighting system. If I had a solar energy system, I could get a refrigerator so I can store meat in it. Right now, I try to keep the meat in cool places, but even then, it ends up getting spoiled. Maybe someone can assist me with the solar energy system. I really like it.
Yes, I've been United States Marine as a coat tuckers, you know, Navajo coat tuckers with the 4th Marine and 4th Division. And we sent message in our own language. I see it now with my sister. She got one there, and I sure like it, the solar electric.
It's easy to see why the photovoltaic system works well for the Navajo Nation. In an area somewhat larger than the state of West Virginia, there are no more utility lines available than would be found in an average town of 20,000 people. Since the population is so sparse, the cost of extending power lines to outlying areas is prohibitive in terms of the number of consumers who can be connected to them in any one location. In the Steamboat area, for instance, only 2 power lines service about 400 square miles. Photovoltaic installations now produce electricity for many isolated families too far from the 2 available power lines. And even if the utility could afford to extend the power lines, the charge to use the electricity would be too high for tribal consumers. For example, wells in Nazlini have been drilled to provide more water to the community. But there is no energy source to pump the water, and the utility has estimated that it will cost about $300,000 to run power cables 12 miles, which is simply not cost-effective. In Steamboat, power was available to a housing project, but the utility, in order to operate, had to levy a high charge to use the power. This was too much for many of the people living there, and they had to ask to be disconnected from the service. In both instances, the photovoltaic system could be used effectively. Since the system is modular and can be easily enlarged for a greater power output, it can be used to pump water on a small or large scale and to provide power to complete housing projects or small villages. The photovoltaic system has already had a great impact on the Navajo people. Being an absolutely clean source of power with no fumes or other types of harmful emissions, it has improved the health and vitality of some of those interviewed. It has the potential for eliminating fires, explosions, and other fuel-related accidents. When the system is used to supply power for refrigerators, food and medications are kept from spoiling. And light to study and learn by after the sun goes to rest. The photovoltaic system can also improve the Navajos' overall living standard by providing needed water for increased crop irrigation and livestock production.
Before that, we used to just know that the sun will come up and it goes down. And we didn't know anything about that. You know, the sun comes up, and there is a lot of things. There is a power that comes up, you know, that gives us a sun ray, and this solar system now that proves that there is something now that what the sun can do for us. So now that I'm happy that it came around to our community.
The sun has begun to give us power and has come to our community as a friend, the oldest friend the world has ever had. The sun, the power giver.